Casters are ready, and we're about to go into this next game right now. We are good. So, level 60 mage, I think, is the name I definitely recognize from Late Night.
Yeah, level 60 mage, I don't recognize. I recognize the other team from next game, but either way, we are now in the picks and bans phases of the second match of the day for TowerDiveTV tournament number 34. I am your caster, Sakimans, and with me I have the big ferocious dragon, also known as Azaraki.
And there we go with the colorful adjective copious intro for whoever your color caster is. I'm actually wondering what you'll end up doing with Zergling, what some of his introductions will be like, but don't spoil it now. So we do have a couple of bans going out already. Draven is a strong AD carry. He's got a lot of early game power, I think, and he's just got so much early game damage. He can dominate lane really well, and on top of that, the spinning axes, such a great steroid on him, and people have figured out how to make him more useful in the late game, because near release, the problem most people saw with Draven was the fact that if you're not good enough to juggle axes and keep repositioning yourself in those team fights to juggle one or mostly two axes at the same time, you're not really going to be able to put out your full damage as Draven. And since then, there has been one sort of change to the way his axes rebound off of opponents, as well as people just getting more practice with Draven, getting better with his positioning, better mechanics with Draven. So that's something that has constituted him, basically, he's now being played a little bit more. And on top of that, we see Thresh banned very, very early. Definitely don't want to play against that. And we've already explained that. Jarvan we've already explained as well. But the other three bans are Zac, Jace, and Kha'Zix.
Yeah, we are going to see Jace banned out. Jace has a lot of poke, and he is a very strong champion. A lot of burst damage in lane, and I really felt last game we didn't see his full potential being unlocked. I mean, they were kind of stomped on a little bit early game. That early game gank, Jace, being first blooded by the Vladimir. So, it really was a little unfortunate, but we do see that Rumble is being hovered over by the blue team, and he is going to be locked in. Rumble, very, very strong pick.
Yeah, we haven't seen Rumble in a good while, and that's a champion that's also extremely good in the top lane. Now, first picking him is sort of odd, because you can also pick Kennen into the top lane, and Kennen will do pretty well against Rumble, and that's something that Kennen has a lot of range and cannot easily be kited by Rumble, whereas Rumble, if he's against a melee champion, shuts him down pretty well. Flame Spitter is a very high damaging ability, but it's got a very short range, so that's going to be something that shuts down a lot of melee champions when they go into CS. And if they're caught in the Flame Spitter and they try to run away, there's a harpoon or two to keep them slowed and make sure that they stay in the Flame Spitter. So Rumble has a pretty good kit on that hand, but we'll have to see what the purple team actually does to respond to the top lane of Rumble. We could see a Kennen who's got quite a bit of range and quite a bit of escapes on top of that. We might also see Jace or Elise could work as well. Just a lot of top lane champions that farm at a range and that have some pretty good escapes so that they can't be kited around by the harpoons, and Elise, I think, is a good pick for that. We might be seeing Elise jungle, we might be seeing Elise top. We'll have to wait and see what that is. But they have also picked Janna for their support.
Yeah, Janna, she is a very successful support. Lots and lots of control. I mean, we saw her last game. She actually did a lot for the team fights and did a lot to protect the Caitlyn and really make it so the Blitzcrank lane didn't hurt all that much. I honestly think both lanes starting Doran's Blade, Janna really won that out because she had the shield. She could prevent a little bit more damage, and Blitzcrank can't really do anything to prevent damage. So he kind of, Misfortune kind of got the shaft on that end because they were able to negate the damage to Caitlyn. So Caitlyn came out a lot healthier, and Caitlyn definitely a dangerous lane to have healthier than you because she can just beat you down all day with her range. And we are going to see Nautilus and Zed locked in on the blue team. What do you think of Zed?
Zed is a pretty strong champion right now as well, and basically so are a lot of mid-lane AD assassins. Zed, Kha'Zix, they do really well in the mid lane because they can assassinate their enemy counterparts, their AP mid counterparts, very, very easily. And that's something that a lot of people have started to do nowadays, and I really think that, even though you can still build Seeker's Arm Guard that gives you ability power as well as armor and builds into a Zhonya's, three things that you can really do well against an AD assassin, I think we could afford to see a buff onto Seeker's Arm Guard, just giving it a little bit of more early game armor, because a lot of these AD mid assassins really shut down plenty of mid lane champions. So we might actually be seeing a Karthus. It's being hovered over, and that's something that it might work, it might not. It depends on how he plays, because if Karthus gets poked down quite a bit from Zed, and Zed does have quite a lot of poke in terms of the fact that he can shadow forward, then use his E as well as Q combo, and put out quite a bit of damage that way. So we do see the Karthus, he is locked in, so it's going to be how he plays it, because most of Zed's finalized kit is around being near Karthus. He's going to have, if he uses his ultimate, he's going to be staying near Karthus. However, Karthus doesn't have a lot of mobility, he doesn't have a lot of health until he picks up the Rod of Ages, so until then Zed's going to have a pretty easy time killing him. So we're going to have to see Karthus. He's just going to want to farm this game out. There's no killing power that he's going to be able to force against Zed unless maybe a gank comes up, but even then it's still a little bit iffy because Zed has some pretty good escapes. So that's something that we're going to have to watch out for.
Yeah, another thing is they do have a decent AoE, but the one problem with AoE, matching someone like Karthus and Kennen, is Janna needs to be very, very careful with their ults. Now, she played a very, very good game of Janna last game. Actually, I think it was Fox the support. Fox was support.
Yeah, Fox was the support.
Yeah, played a very, very good game on Janna last time, and that really wasn't a problem. Janna's ult was used at very key times, but it can be a problem with some less experienced Jannas, that might hurt the AoE damage, especially when it's locked around the champion itself. So when the champion's not going to move along with the enemy champions getting flown out, and we're seeing a Tristana being hovered over, something we don't seem very much of, but I honestly say I have to like it. I really like this pick.
Tristana's a pretty good pick. Now, she's going to have a little bit of trouble in the mid game as well as the early game, even though Tristana has, pretty good early game power. We're also seeing her up against Sona Ezreal, who has so much poke on their kit. Even at level 1, we see the aura from Sona, as well as she can utilize her Q to put out poke, and then on top of that, throw out a power chord, which will do quite a bit of poke damage as well, on top of the fact that Ezreal can take his Mystic Shop first, and that'll give him a lot of level 1 poke as well. And we know that Tristana's burst doesn't really come until level 2, and that's the point where you're going to be wanting to watch out for Tristana's heavy engage at level 2. So I want to see the blue team, this bot lane, they're going to want to poke out a lot at level 1. They want to be an aggressive level 1, and right now, most of the time, Janna does take, not shield, her Tornado first, and that's basically to stop a lot of CC. She can go into the enemy jungle, pull an invade with Tornado. There's just so much more versatility with Tornado than there is with the shield. Normally it takes shield second, but we might actually be seeing a change in this game just to negate some of that poke that the blue team does have.
Well, the summoner blockers are now down, and we're going to see slightly different summoner spells this game, which is pretty cool. It's always nice to have a little bit of a difference. I'm going to assume that we are going to see Kennen in the top lane against Rumble. Kennen, I'm not really sure how that matchup is going to go. Kennen definitely has a little bit more range on Rumble. Rumble's Flame Spitter does, and he does have the twin harpoons. So, they both have range to reach each other, but I definitely think Rumble is a bit tankier and a bit more, heavy and hard to take down. So we're going to have to see Kennen play a little more carefully, as usual with Kennen lanes.
Well, Kennen actually, as I mentioned at the beginning of the game, as soon as we saw the Rumble first pick, was one of the champions I suggested to play against Rumble, because he does have Kennen. The thing about Kennen, he's got a lot of range, he's got a ton of poke, and on top of that, he's got great escapes. He can easily out-kite Rumble, and where Rumble, he wants to keep you near him.
Well,
and
but
that's something that
Rumble
Kennen
does
is
have
good
the
against.
speed,
And Rumble has
and
his
flow
twin.
too. So.
No. Rumble has his harpoons, which Kennen can dodge extremely easily, and Kennen's Electric Surge is basically, I think that's what it's called. Or is it Lightning Rush? I think it's actually Lightning Rush.
Yeah.
So his Lightning Rush is an amazing escape. It's got quite a bit of movement speed on it, and it's going to allow him to dodge those harpoons extremely easily. So he's going to have a little bit of an easier time against Rumble. And even coming into the late game, we also have that big AoE, as you stated before, with Karthus versus Kennen. Or not versus, Karthus and Kennen stacking both of their big AoEs, and that's going to pull off a lot of damage with the rest of the blue team. And as you said earlier, we're going to have to see if Janna, she has to play it right, doesn't want to knock people out of those big AoEs, but at the same time she can utilize Tornado to keep them in the AoEs, and even disengage fights that aren't quite good for them.
Yeah, I definitely think Kennen is a pick that can deal with Rumble, but Rumble definitely not completely countered by a Kennen lane. One summoner spell that I was going to touch on, though, or I want to touch on before the game starts here is, it's become more common sometimes for supports to take the Ignite over Exhaust. It does deny an Exhaust, but because, AD carries have loved taking Barrier as of recently, they really don't take Ignite quite as much because Barrier is just so much safer, especially when you are generally the primo target #1 when it comes to fights.
Yeah, the weird thing about that is that the blue team, they already have 2 Ignites on their side, with both Zed and Rumble taking Ignite, so I don't know if the Ignite was so much needed there, and I really would have actually liked to see an Exhaust pick, because even though Ignite gives them a lot of early game power in the bot lane, for the late game, we want to see Exhaust for champions like Tristana, who is very much a hyper carry in the late game, to slow down her massive amounts of attack speed, especially when she uses her Rapid Shot, giving her a ton of attack speed on all of her auto attacks. And on top of that, we also see Karthus, who can put out a ton of damage. Not so much attack speed needed with him, but it does lower the amount of spell damage coming out from every champion. So that's another person who you might want to see Exhaust on if he can initiate fights really easily as Karthus. So I would have rather actually seen an Exhaust on Sona. However, we do see, diamond borders, platinum borders. So a lot of these matchups that we've been talking about, a lot of these summoner spells, they might not matter so much depending on the skill difference between both of these teams. However, the borders don't really say too much. Most of the purple team, they're either platinum or gold at this point, so they could certainly contest a lot of these picks from the red team.
Yeah, we definitely do see a border win coming out for the blue team. I believe is that diamond? No, well, there's
diamond
one.
And
there's
2
plat. Yeah, but that's still a big lead over silver. But that doesn't mean we should count it out. I think in this tournament we've definitely seen upsets of this kind before, where gold teams or silver teams have taken out these plat teams, and because ultimately it comes down to communication when you're in fives. And that's something that where solo queue more reliant on the singular person.
Yeah, so we're just waiting for a little bit to couple of them to load into the game, and in the meantime we can take a look at some of the skins. We do see Rumble in the jungle, which is pretty cool, as well as Arcane Sona, but I think the blue team once again wins the skin war here.
I actually tried a new drink last night. It's called the California Lemonade. It was delicious. I made it myself.
Oh yeah, you were talking about that earlier.
Yeah, for those of you who are interested while we're waiting, it's whiskey, grenadine, spoonful of powdered sugar, half a lime, half a lemon, and then shake it up, and then top it with tonic water. It's delicious.
All right, getting into the game right now.
We are in the game. Always delicious. Rumble gonna have to enjoy his delicious beverage out of a coconut later. It's time to fight on Summoner's Rift on the second match of the TowerDiveTV number 34 tournament, and we will see late night Yaoi going against Templique.
Alright, already we're seeing a couple of builds coming out. I like the fact that Karthus has already gone for cloth armor as well as 5 potions. So basically what he's doing, he's going to say, alright, I want to just farm this entire time. And he's going to be able to do that because the cloth armor is going to negate so much of Zed's poke, as well as the health potions are going to be able to give him sustain in the lane. So, once again, Karthus, he's not going to have any power to close out on Zed to get those kills. So he's just playing the farm game, and that's what you want to do as Karthus, because Karthus late game puts out so much damage and is a really great force in team fights. So we see both teams, The red team definitely taking a more defensive position right now. They're not all grouped up in the same bush. They're just sort of spreading out, making sure that all of their bases are covered. Whereas the blue team, they could be doing that, but more likely they're going for a red invade because they're all right here. They're all now moving into the enemy jungle, and there's no one there for the red team, so they will be able to spot that. But that one ward in the brush, I think, saw some of the blue team go in for it.
John is in a
coming
dangerous
around.
spot right here. I definitely think she could get caught out here. Oh, the blue team pings are going down on her. They're not quite trying to encircle her, so I'm not sure what they're trying to do here. She's going to be able to walk out scot-free. Blue team pinged it, and they knew that someone might have been there, and they just kind of botched that. So
you know what I think it is? I actually think that it was the fact that they didn't know where any of the red team was. They didn't know that the red team was setting up at their own blue. They could have been, alright, John is just scouting. We could be seeing, the blue team up in that top, or the rest of the red team up in that top bush. We don't want to initiate on it because their entire team could be right there waiting for us. But all in all, no harm done. There was no risk taken, so there was no real downside to either team's play.
Yeah, very, very true. I didn't consider that. So, that was actually pretty well played by the blue team. Not wanting to walk into a trap, which John definitely could have been. And we are going to see a swap here. Quite a complex swap, as you notice. We do see Ken in the top lane. And, mid lane swaps we do see more often. But we are going to see the red team's bot lane switched with the mid lane. How do you think Karthus is going to do against such a poke-heavy bot lane?
Yeah, he's not gonna do very well. I'm gonna be completely honest right there. Even though he's got the cloth armor as well as potions, I think they should have just kept the lanes the way they were. Now, the advantage for the red team comes with the fact that Tristana's going to be able to get farm, but at the same time, they're forcing Karthus into a position where he's not going to get nearly as much farm as he needs, and an underfarmed Karthus.
Oh, Nautilus hitting a very brilliant hook right there, and he's going to be forced Tristana to below flash right there. That was actually pretty big, because now he can return and gank when Tristana's trying to push up again. And that might actually net a kill, because Tristana only has one jump. And Nautilus ended up hitting the hook after the jump, not even before. So
yeah, and that's a really good decision for Nautilus to do, is basically make sure this mid lane keeps getting ganks. And right there, as you said, amazing hook. And they were able to pop the flash from Tristana. They can keep putting pressure, and Tristana's now going to be a little bit more scared without that flash. So even though they didn't take the kill, they're denying Tristana a lot of farm, and it looks like they might actually be going for a tower dive in the bot lane to shut Karthus down even farther, as Zed is right here waiting for a gank.
Yeah, you did see it was pinged. Zed is missing, and they think he's maybe going up or down. They probably don't know that he is going for a level 2 to 3 tower dive down here. Karthus just kind of sitting unexpectedly. The tower almost pushed up, and the tower's almost down too. We are going to see Zed jumping in here. Karthus taking a lot of damage. Ignite going down on him, but Exhaust going down on Zed. Trying to run away and save himself. First Blood still goes down, though. I'm not sure what he was trying to accomplish with that flash.
Well, that was a very good tower dive on the part of the blue team right there. They were basically doing the switch tank thing again, and Elise trying to help push out the mid lane now that their mid lane is gone, but Nautilus is right there. Good job on him to basically be there to stop this push. Well, not necessarily stop it, but he's certainly going to negate a lot of the damage that the red team can do to this tower.
Yeah, and they can't exactly stand there and fight at Nautilus. Nautilus is very, very strong. I mean, he did, Tristana does have a lot of early game damage, so she was able to force Nautilus back, but Zed isn't the best to swap with. I really don't think. I think Karthus definitely got hurt a lot more.
Yeah, Karthus certainly got hurt a lot more. Zed has a little bit more power in the mid lane, and even though there's a support there for the mid lane AD carry, Zed can still do a ton of damage in terms of assassination. And right there, he didn't actually need to follow up with the by swapping with the Shadow. I'm not sure why he did there, but it looks like level 60 mage back in the mid lane for a gank, but a great jump, going to be able to negate that. Well timed as well, making sure that she was out in the tower range by the end of the jump, so Nautilus couldn't pull her in after she jumped. But as I was saying before, Zed can farm from a distance, he can poke out from a distance, and right there, we're seeing so much damage on him, and that's something that, Zed's not going to have nearly as much trouble as Karthus will, and Karthus' tower is already down, so they're just going to start pushing the mid lane.
Yeah, and it looks like Tristana so close to dying, forced to jump away there. Good thing Ezreal's not 6, or Zed, because she definitely might have been dove on there. And yeah, they're just pushing towers. It looks like red team wanted to go for an early push, so blue team responded and said, all right, we're going to push faster than you. And it looks like they're going to dive on top of Janna here. Janna taking a lot of damage, flashing to try to juke a Q right there, but Zed following it up, getting stunned under the tower by Elise, though. Very, very nice roam. Elise deciding whether to repel. Zed coming right in the range and being like, do it, I dare you. But no, Elise not going to do it. Going to play it safe, but blue team's still going to be working on this tower.
Yeah, that was an assured kill on Zed. However, you know, jumping
in the
down
top lane
onto
here,
Zed
it looks like Kennen will get exhausted and or ignited, and the equalizer will hit him. Rumble going under the tower, hitting. It's not going to be enough. Kennen going to escape with less than 20 health right there. Ever so close, and that was just a big misunderestimation of damage.
Unfortunately for Kennen, Rumble just hit level 6 just that split second earlier, so he was able to use Equalizer to round out that fight. Now, unfortunately, the rest of the game is also going pretty badly for the red team, as well as they're going in for another gank in the bot lane. Karthus is putting down the wall of pain, not really going to be able to make much happen there, but it looks like Zed going for 3 longswords, definitely going for a brutalizer as well as a vamp scepter on top of that, and that's basically a very popular build on Zed, going for Blade of the Ruined King, followed up by a Black Cleaver. So much damage, a lot of sustain, as well as penetration, as well, and a flash
Nautilus
try to smite.
Tried to steal that smite, unsuccessful though. He is going to back out. Zed trying to put down some more damage, and it looks like red team trying to just force them back out of the jungle. They kind of don't want to fight right there. As you can see, Karthus was out of mana and just very low, and Elise was at about half health.
Now, there were 2 things to note about that. Basically, the flash, sorry, I don't really think was really the best idea there. Now, pressuring the blue buff was definitely what I wanted to see there. He could have easily, you know, forced Karthus not to take the blue buff, and that's his main goal right there. And I think, you know, he was flashing to make sure that happened, to make sure that he forced the smite out of Elise rather than letting Karthus get it. So that's his goal. But I don't know if the flash was necessarily needed to do that. You know, I think they would have seen Nautilus right there in the first place, and you know, he missed the smite, and even if he did take the blue buff, I don't think it would have been worth the flash.
Yeah, I'd have to agree with you a little bit. I mean, it wasn't the worst play as it didn't, and nothing bad actually happened, but he did expel that summoner spell that's going to make it so he can't use it to engage later. You know, it's just not going to be an option for him. Whereas there aren't any flashes on the same timer on the other team, and it looks like Janna in a little bit of trouble here, getting that nice tornado from the Karthus wall, barely saving her to get out of there. Janna, of course, increasing movement speed with her passive, and actually Ezreal might have gone a little bit too far in, at least going to repel onto her. Sona is there, but Tristana is going to jump, using the ult just a bit too early, but it looks like Janna will pick up the kill. Not quite the most advantageous person, and a double kill actually for the red team. Not bad.
Wow, the red team was actually able to turn that fight around, and as you said, Ezreal just got caught out a little bit. You know, forced to take a stun, as well as Tristana jumping over the wall and finishing with an ignite combo, as well as an ignite, as well as her ultimate, basically doing a lot of damage. Janna Tornado just finishing it off, just in case the ignite didn't quite do enough. But they're taking a dragon off of this. Ezreal is going to try to steal it with his ultimate, but it's not going to work. You know, they just let it alone, let it take a little bit of damage, but it looks like
Nautilus did outsmite it, yeah, and he is in the middle. Not sure he's going to be able to escape with his life, but that is some global gold. Zed picking up a kill. Will he be able to pick up another one or get away? No, he's actually going to give Tristana a double kill. That is a late game carry. You do not want to give that person too many kills, but still, very, very nice smite on the job of Nautilus. Not sure that Zed had to go in there and die as well, though.
Yeah, I don't know if Zed going in and dying there was the best idea right there. So they basically, you know, they're giving Tristana a couple of kills, and as you said, late game extremely high power in the late game. But Kennen's going to ult, unfortunately, just underestimating the amount of damage he can do. Just, you know, I saw him go out for a little bit of CS. He was going to try to harass, but the entire time he was standing in Flame Spitter, where what he should have done right there is just backed off. He should have just made sure he was safe rather than I don't know. I think he was trying to get more damage on Rumble, but he was too close in tanking.
And it looks like actually Sona ult does go out in the mid lane. Elise Propel is going to jump down, but Flash is going to go out by Sona. Sona probably going to, no, not going to die here. Barely staying alive because of a heal. Elise forced to flash herself, though, not wanting to die to Ezreal. And now going to pop Spider Form and scurry away. Very, very good fight. Red team really picking and choosing their battles quite well, other than Kennen in the top lane.
And here we go. They're going to start pushing the mid lane at this point, and they're going to keep getting a little bit more control as they go. Now, they're behind in kills, but they're up in gold as well as towers, so that's going to be something that helps them out quite a bit. And the gold really comes from the amount of CS they have. And Karthus right now, 11 minutes into the game, sitting at 40 creep score, 40 minion kills, and that's not really what you want on a Karthus who's a late game carry. And it looks like, ooh, Tristana just getting quite a bit of damage down onto Ezreal, and almost she would have gone in for the kill, but I think she sees Nautilus right here ready to gank.
Yeah, it looks like Tristana was able to jump. Not sure. It looks like she's going to try to go through her own jungle. Sona is close, but oh, very nice Nautilus hook. He is on par with that. Zed is there as well. Just in case. I actually think they should have let him get that kill. It really would have given 3 assists and a kill. But still, Tristana gets picked up, and I believe Ezreal gets the double buffs, or at least red buff. Nope, both of them in the bot lane.
Yeah, I don't know if Tristana should have flashed there as well. I think she should have known that her fate was sealed at that point. Zed was on her way around, and if she looked at the wards on her map, she would have known that Zed was coming around. So it wasn't just.
And there is a fight in the top lane too. Rumble getting taken down. Oh, taking down Kennen with so much damage by Flamespitter, and Elise gonna be able to pick up that kill. But here comes Zed, trying to get there faster to save his comrade. Not gonna be able to do it though. He is now chasing Elise. Not gonna be able to hit him with the Shuriken. Continuing to run, but here comes Jana. Might actually be able to pick up a kill. Keeping him under tower with every skill she's got, and one more hit will seal the deal. Jana picking up a kill. Beautiful play by that Jana in the top lane. Not only keeping Elise alive, but getting a kill.
And Jana is such a great champion right there, and it's really. I love the under tower play she did there. That was great by her, just keeping him under the tower the entire time, and on top of that, saving Elise. Now, unfortunately, the part about that is the fact that that first kill that Rumble got when he hit level 6 before Cannon, able to use the equalizer to close out the kill, and it really snowballed him. And Rumble is such a snowbally champion. You give him 1 kill, you give him 2 kills, he's going to be able to dominate the rest of his lane no matter what. I mean, it's going to be really hard to shut him down after he gets that single first kill in the top lane. So Kennen unfortunately just didn't get enough ganks to set it back into his favor, and that gank right there was just a little
Sona ult and Ez ult both going out, but it looks like blue team in trouble a little bit. Kennen getting knocked up by that Nautilus ult, but it is too late for Nautilus. He is going to get picked up by that Karthus. And that is going to be 2 kills for nothing. Red team looking pretty strong right now.
And it looks like they're going to start pushing the mid lane with taking that extra, team fight right there. So here we go. We're going to see them push a little bit more, and in the top lane, Rumble was able to take a turret and force some of that advantage back into his own favor, and it's going to actually give them 4 turrets up to 0. And unfortunately, the red team, they just didn't have enough pushing power in the mid lane. We have Zed as well as Ezreal both having quite a bit of wave clear. They can just push the minions off the tower and be completely fine, but it looks like there goes the kill onto Karthus from Zed.
Yeah, immediately gets picked off right there. Exhaust goes down, not going to work. Karthus ult is going down, trying to pick up Zed. It is going to work. Unfortunately, Kennen going to fall as well. Now, Jana chasing after the Ezreal. Looks like Rumble and Ezreal might be able to pick up the kill. Ignite is ticking down, but the shield is going out. One more Q, we'll see the deal. That flame spitter is spitting out so much damage. Going to be forcing the rest of the red team away. And despite, having the kill lead and getting a couple good fights, that tower advantage, just like you said, Rumble taking the tower top lane, that tower advantage is just keeping the blue team in a nice steady lead and just doing so much for them, especially with that Dragon Steel. They just have so much global gold floating over the red team.
And they're going to be able to back off, take a couple of buffs on their way back. Both red buff and blue buff for the red team are down. Dragon's off the map. There's really no more that they can take across the map, so they're just going to start taking some of their own jungle camps and going back, spending all the gold they have. Let's take a look at that. Ezreal's sitting on 4,000 gold right now. He's going to finish up his Bloodthirster, and I think he can also get a Lizard Elder buff right there along with it. So we're going to see whether or not he goes for the rest of the blue Ezreal build, or he decides to go for a Mirror Mana as well as the Bloodthirster. So I think he's going to go for the Spirit of the Elder Lizard. That's generally what you want to do on blue Ezreal, is get that sooner rather than later. And either way, your Tear of the Goddess is going to be able to stack up fairly quickly. Ezreal is just that much of a spammy champion. So it looks like Dragon is up, and Ezreal is just going to be able to Arcane Shift right over it, try to take it himself, but unfortunately the rest of his team are finding themselves in a fight.
Yeah, it looks like they will, but Karthus' wall, the slow, is incredibly powerful. Tristana not going to want to check that bush either. So the fight has been disengaged, but we are seeing both teams hover around Dragon. While they were doing that, though, Ezreal and Nautilus did start, and we are going to see Zed, again, diving on that Elise. No engagement yet. It looks like the red team is still adamant to engagement. There's the flash engagement. Very nice smite steal by Elise. We are seeing Karthus and Nautilus, a bunch of ults being popped right in the middle of the fight. Tristana picking up a kill there, but Zed doing lots and lots of work. Zed actually getting taken down, though, and Rumble just diving the back line to finish off. We might actually see a penta here for Rumble. John is sitting in the back, trying to back. They're going to give him the penta. That is a pentakill for Kevin Chang Season 2. Good job. That very nice Rumble play.
Unfortunately, Jonna had no way to actually get out of that. She didn't have flash up at the time. It just came back up, so unfortunately for her, not able to flash over the wall, but I don't know if she would have in the first place. Maybe just wanting to give Rumble the penta anyway, because, you know, a pentakill in a tournament setting, that's pretty huge. So, we saw the last game, someone got a quadra. Caitlyn got a quadra, I think it was. No, Vladimir got a quadra, and Caitlyn took the last kill, but I like how the rest of the red team basically said, alright, you got this, just give Rumble, or the rest of the blue team said, give Rumble the penta, and they did. And even if Jonna's flash was up, you know, giving Rumble the penta, having the rest of the team back off, not really the worst idea, because, oh no, we let the support go. And they'll still have just as much pushing power as they normally had. They still won the team fight, they still caught the dragon, and at this point, you know, they're so far ahead in every aspect of the game. They're 3 kills ahead, which, you know, isn't much, but they've got so much CS ahead of their counterparts on the red team. They have 5 towers to 0. They've taken, I think, both dragons so far, so they're really far ahead in this game. 7k gold ahead at 18 minutes into the game. They're going to go on to Tristana.
Ooh, very, very good dive there by Zed. Zed ult carrying him over with Tristana there. Tristana tried to get over, but Zed ult was in range, kind of, you know, in the middle of diving when she jumped over there. And that was a very, very good pickup. And I'd have to agree with you. If anything we can say about Fox, I mean, they might not win at this point, but, you know, definitely good guy Jonna.
Yep. And they're just going to keep pushing down the mid lane, I guess. And Ezreal is in the bot lane, so he's going to be able to split push. And they can really afford to do that right now, because even if the red team decides to initiate this 4v5, by the time Ezreal gets there, the rest of the blue team, they're not going to take that much damage. By the time Ezreal goes back to his own team, you know, no one's going to die in that amount of time. Maybe one person, but they're still going to be able to clean up the rest of the fight very easily. And on top of that, the red team, they're forced to figure out who they want to go after. They need to stop either Ezreal or they need to stop the rest of the team. It looks like they're all grouping for a push. They took down Tristana's health. She's forced to back. This is a 4v5 in favor of the blue team. They're going to muscle him off the turret.
Yeah, Ezreal slowly hitting the turret. They might do it. They just might. All they need to do is stick it out. They keep bouncing back and forth from the mid to the bot turret. At one point, they're going to cave. Ezreal can throw those Qs all day. I believe with the tier, he can throw one without mana loss every 4 seconds. So, as you can see, he's going to be able to do it for quite some time and still have a good mana. And as you can see, they're just bouncing back and forth, getting damage on the turret, damage on the turret. Eventually, they're going to take one of these turrets down unless they get engaged upon, which, you know, they are taking a lot of damage, so we could see happen at any moment. And there goes the stun on Nautilus, still not choosing to engage, though.
Yeah, the Wall of Pain, unfortunately, not actually catching anyone, and there goes the Equalizer.
Oh, my pickup!
Back into it!
Yeah, Karthus not able to escape. He's just too squishy right now. Was shut down too hard. Zed now diving on the Tristana, is over the wall away from his team. Soda all going out. Kennedall trying to stun members of the blue team under tower, and it's working. Nautilus is now retreating. Does get taken down. And as you can see, Rumble is end up stunning Tristana, putting down that slow, but almost getting taken down herself. Ezreal still in enough health because of that Bloodthirster. Going to be able to stay under that tower. And they might look to back off. Elise jumping on him, but a very, very nice arcane shift.
Yeah, I'm actually wondering why Nautilus hasn't gotten as tanky as he should be. I think he went for the straight up rushing the bulwark instead of going for his Blessing of the Ancient Golem, which is going to give him a lot of health cooldown reduction, as well as some of the jungle sustain that he gets from all the Spirit Stone items. So he's actually going for the Bulwark first rather than that. So, ooh, Karth is almost catching out Sona, but unfortunately the wall doesn't do damage, so it's not going to cancel the back. He's just not getting there in time. So we're going to see Ezreal, he's stealing the blue buff away from Karthus, and that's going to hurt him quite a bit actually, so he's not going to be able to keep his Defile up as long as he would like in an extended team fight, even though he does already have the tier, and actually didn't go for a Rod of Ages first, going for a Zhonya's instead. I think I actually would have liked Rod of Ages a little bit more, and right now we see he's sitting at just over 1,000 health, 1,200. He's not really going to be able to survive much at all, and even though most of the damage for the red team is physical damage, we see Rumble. 8 and 1. He's doing so much damage with a Liandry's needlessly large rod, going for his own. I don't know. He might be going for Deathcap next, or he might be going for Zhonya's because he has all the components for both of those items. I think he's gonna edge towards a Deathcap next, since he doesn't really need survivability at the moment. He just wants to put out more damage, and maybe kill people with just an equalizer.
Yeah, that definitely would be good. I think a Rylai's would be good personally, but. Out of all the choices of items he could get, but Deathcap would definitely be funny. That Lilandry's though, the burn on Karthus is probably one of the things that help kill him, along with just that equalizer is so strong. Even after the nerf, they nerfed it a few patches ago to make it a little more, just a little more. You need to hit it correctly and things like that to make it impactful. But it is still just a great item. I mean, ability. You definitely don't want that thing on an item. That would be way too good.
Yeah, it would. Unfortunately, Karthus, he tried to flash out of it, but he actually flashed right back into it, so I think a little bit of miscoordination on his own part right there. Okay, so, red team, they were able to take the first tower of their game, and unfortunately, the rest of the blue team, they were stuck taking drag. They couldn't actually force onto Tristana, but it looks like they found Zed. And he's going to be able to Shadow Dash over the wall. They're going for it again.
He did,
Tristana just overextending.
Yeah, Tristana thinking he can kill the Zed, pushing him back, but Zed just too strong. You definitely can't 1v1 Zed as an AD carry. Just too much burst damage. And it looks like, 3 members of the blue team being hit by the tornado, so they're not going to be able to jump right on the Karthus or right on the Janna, but they are going to be able to siege this inhibitor and probably take it down.
Yeah, this inhibitor is most likely gone. They don't have Tristana, and there goes the hook.
We do have a hook there. Ezreal going out along with the equalizer, hitting Karthus again. He isn't going to be in it, but Zed and Ezreal going to be able to pick up that kill. The inhibitor is theirs. Red team do not want to fight, and I'm not really sure why Karthus all went out there. Maybe just to force him out, but looks like it is going to make them back off just a little bit, not wanting to be there when, well, Tristana is back up, and Karthus too.
Yeah, Karthus unfortunately just not putting out nearly the damage that he needs to at this point. He was really underfarmed throughout the entire game, and I really think that it's that red team's fault for initiating that lane swap. And as everyone likes to say plenty of times during the TDTV tournaments, and oftentimes when I cast with Lunette, she also says this as well. But it's basically, if you initiate the lane swap, you're probably going to lose unless you know exactly what you're doing. And although they might want Tristana fed, they made it so that Karthus just completely shut down in terms of farm. He has less than 124 minutes into the game. That's not the point where you want Karthus to be, and I think they just got a little bit too short-sighted with saying, alright, we need Tristana to get to the late game, let's give her free farm. But in turn, they just completely shut down Karthus.
Yeah, and there is the Sona ult. Not quite sure why it went out. They did do a little bit of a combo there, but, really just going to use it to back off safely. So, I mean, it doesn't seem like it's on that much of a cooldown. Yeah, it's on a 100-second cooldown, so they're going to have to wait quite a bit before Sona ult is up again. But at this point, they're down an inhibitor. Their bot turret is constantly pushing in because of Ezreal. They could do Baron very easily and would either have to lose a base turret or, something like that. They could even do Baron without Ezreal and have Ezreal split push.
That's possible as well. Rumble, if he just activates his Flame Spitter, that'll tear down Baron quite a bit, especially with Liandry's. Even though Liandry's against monsters, it still does quite a bit of damage on top of the base damages of whatever he does. So, and Nahus is going to be able to tank. Zed does a lot of his own damage. They can just take the Baron without Ezreal, I agree right there, and he's going to be able to split push bots, so we might want to see them go for Baron, but they could also just close the game out very soon with the next team fight as well. There's just a lot of possibilities for the blue team to just continue closing out this game that they're not really going to be hurting for anything. Whatever they decide to do, it's probably going to just help them in the long run, whether it's Baron, whether it's team fight, whether it's just split push.
Yeah, as you can see, red team right now just trying to secure their buffs, trying to push out their lanes, and blue team really, really wants the Baron. They got the pink. They know that they're ahead, and Rumble wobbling through a wall right there. Not quite sure if you saw that too, Azza, but Rumble decided...
a little bit of a spectator glitch.
A little bit of a picnic. And, ooh, Zed actually stole that red buff too. We could actually see an engagement here. Elise, oh, Equalizer going down. Elise might get caught out here. Does jump up, but has nothing to repel to. Actually is going to repel to Sona on the other side. Trying to flash away. Not going to quite make it out though, but that was a very, very fancy little maneuver right there. And blue team, even though they were setting up for Baron, decides, why would we do Baron right now? Let's take more objectives. So very, very good call by them, knowing to take advantage of when they need to.
Here goes a couple of more towers taken down for the red team. In favor of the blue team for the red team.
And we're going to see a fight in the bot lane. Oh, Zed almost getting taken down. It looks like Tristana will pick up that kill. Ezreal getting slowed by Karthus, taking a lot of damage. We can actually see him fall down. Nock can't quite reach the Karthus with his Qs. Tristana blocking them all. No, gonna get the shutdown. Probably hit him and got either a crit, or Ezreal just does so much damage to Karthus. Not quite sure what happened there, but Ezreal did end up picking that up. So very, very good job. And now red team going to be confident enough to go in on this, but Janna's going to be picked up and punished for her insolence.
And so many towers taken for the red team. Yet the blue team, they can do once again whatever they feel like right now. Their mid lane inhibitor, or they taken the enemy mid lane inhibitor, that lane's going to be pushing out on its own. The bot lane tower for the red team is down as well, so the minions aren't going to be able to fight back as well as they should be, and they're going to be able to push into the base and go for the inhibitor at that point as well. So there's so much control for the blue team. They could go for Baron, or they could, as we said before, just keep closing out with more team fights, keep pushing towers a little bit. And there's just so many ways they could win. They could close out this game, and even though it's a 10k goal difference, there's still just so much less that the red team can do about than there is in a normal game with a 2k goal difference, because they have too much control, they have too much team fight ability as well, especially since Karthus is the one shut down, and there goes Rumble.
And he is probably going to get to... Oh, he doesn't even get hit. Just the burn of the Equalizer, and Rumble himself gets taken him down. And Elise is going to force him back, though, not wanting to get caught out without his team. They want to end this, but they want to end this clean, and they want to do it well. And, that's something that, you can really tell about confident teams. They are really, really good teams. They don't get too cocky when they're in the lead. Like, some people can get lucky, pick up a few kills, but you really got to know how to close out a game. That's what's important. And we're actually seeing even LCS teams have trouble with this.
Yeah, closing out a game, like you said, is really important, and we're seeing the blue team, they can do that. They're basically saying, alright, let's all group up.
Speaking of closing out, we are going to see a team fight here. Kennen does ult, Nautilus did jump in. Kevin Chang just doing so much damage. Janna going to try to keep him out of that fight. Zed will get picked up here, though, but Rumble flashing with that Flame Spitter, going to be picking up the Tristana. Sona's ult going out there to try to hold Karthus there. At this point, blue team is just stomping over the red team, and they are going to be able to take this inhibitor, only losing Zed to Tristana and Elise in the back line there. Very, very good job. This might be game. Not sure if Janna can hold out this many people.
Yeah, Janna doesn't even have her ult, so it's going to be really hard for her to close out the game, even if she could. And there goes the second Nexus tower. They're going to go for the Nexus next, and it looks like Janna, unfortunately, not going to be able to do anything. She has Flash up. Let's see if she decides to do anything with it. Just going to place out a tornado, but it looks like, oh my god, Kevin Chang is going to be able to kill her under the fountain with an Equalizer as well as a harpoon. There goes the kill. Blue team wins again, late night.
Yeah, very, very good late night. Good job by late night there. They played a very solid game, and they were very safe, and they closed it out in a nice, slow-paced manner.
Yeah, you never want to rush a game too much. We see a lot of teams, and as you said, even in LCS, they have trouble closing out a game. They would have a really good laning phase, but they don't make anything out of it. They don't start pushing, all collectively pushing objectives, or perhaps they get too overzealous and try to fight too many team fights that are down disadvantaged for them. Maybe they try to fight too many 4v5s, or just try to fight under the enemy tower too much. But closing out a game is really an important part of League of Legends competitive play in general, and I'm glad to see that the blue team, they took it slowly, and they were able to close it out.
Yeah, and again to our viewers, sorry that our Twitch chat is not working. But I have thought of an alternative. If you'd like to ask us a question or make a comment about any of the games and have them read up on stream, feel free to tweet us at TowerDiveTV, or if you want to get directly or at Azaraki or I, since we are paying attention to our Twitters as well, feel free to follow us at Sakimans or at Azaraki. We'll try and in between the games maybe look at some tweets if we have them. If you're interested in hearing something that's appropriate, we're gonna make sure it's appropriate to say on stream, but. If you have a good question or something like that, we'll feel free to answer it through Twitter. I guess that's a good alternative.
Yes, it is. So, looking at some of these post-game builds, Ezreal just finished off a lot of his items, and one thing I want to go back to a little bit for Ezreal is the fact that, as the game progressed, he was so far ahead that he could actually just skip the Blessing of the Elder Lizard. He was 8-2-11 by the end of the game. He had so much farm, the most in the game, sitting at just over 200, and that's going to be really good for him. And he just, he didn't, like I said, he didn't need to build the Blessing of the Elder Lizard. It's a very low-cost item, does great in the early game, does great in the mid-game. Late game, I think you could afford to skip it and get more damage with Bloodthirster as well as your Last Whisper, and we saw right there, he was able to do that. So we're going to be invited to the next game. In the meantime, go ahead and enjoy some of the music.